Hello, I'm Madison Gunn, and I am here with Kirsten Howe from Absolute Trust Counsel to talk more about our funding series for your revocable or family trust. We always are looking at ways to educate in terms of making sure that all of your assets are in your trust so we avoid the issues that we deal with in a trust administration down the road or in capacity administration. Today, we're going to talk about your cars. That's always the biggest question I get in estate planning is what do I do with my cars? And we're also going to talk about mobile homes, just because they kind of converge in terms of topic. There's a couple different ways that things can be titled, and I figured we'd talk about cars first. Kirsten, do you want to talk about whether or not someone has to title their cars in their trust?
Sure. There is a provision in the probate code and in the motor vehicle code, I think both, that basically tells us that we don't have to probate a vehicle. There's a whole other DMV specific process for transferring a vehicle from a dead person to the living. Doesn't require probate court. However, if there is a probate, then you got to bring the vehicle into the probate. So we always tell our clients, don't bother with retitling your cars. Now that you've created a trust, it's not necessary. They won't have to go through probate, but you do have to make sure that you retitle everything else. Because if there's a $200,000 bank account hanging outside of the trust, there's going to be a probate and the cars will get pulled into the probate. So, the answer is it depends, but yeah. you don't have to retitle your cars as long as you are confident that you're going to take care of everything else correctly.
Yeah. Or if you're Jay Leno and you have 100 cars, or you have significant value cars like cherry condition, vehicles that you've restored and that are worth a pretty penny. You can see them on Mecum auto auction, things like that. Those you should probably retitle.
Go ahead. Yeah, those are worth retitling.
Yeah. Or most of RVs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because RVs are very valuable.
Those big Class A bus-like RVs, that's like a home. They're like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and you can resell them for well over the probate threshold.
Yeah. So, so that kind of thing, yes, probably worth retitling in the name of your trust. But most ordinary cars that you drive around and they're 5 years old or whatever, probably it's okay.
And a couple tidbits, you do have to have the title in order to retitle it. So you have to have the pink slip, which means you can't have a note or a loan or a lien holder on the car in order to retitle it. And also, life hack, if you have AAA roadside service, you can a lot of times do DMV paperwork in their office rather than going to DMV.
Right, which is the reason we tell clients not to retitle their cars, because one less trip to the DMV in your lifetime will probably add years to your life, and that's a good thing.
And because it's so uncommon, sometimes it's rolling the dice when you go in there as to whether or not they'll even let you. So we've definitely had clients say, I did all the right paperwork and I went in there and they won't let me retitle it. They say it has to be done after I die. And that's not true, but maybe they don't deal with that paperwork on such a regular basis that they even want to touch it.
They know how to do it. Yeah. It's that's a good point. Walking into there, you never know who you're going to get. Okay. Sorry that we are not bashing the DMV.
No.
That's just the reality.
It's just like anytime you go somewhere, right? Because sometimes if somebody doesn't know how to do it, they'll just tell you they can't. It's just rather than dealing with that. They have a lot to process. I'm sure they're not paid great. So it's just, they're doing what they can.
Exactly.
And it's not common. So that's what the point was. So one of the other things to talk about is mobile homes. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. This could include, a travel trailer that you can hitch up to your truck. It could be, a bigger version of that. Sometimes they call them park models where they end up sitting permanently anyways, but also just the good old fashioned mobile home, single wide, double wide. Trailer park. But what's replacing that is the modular homes. They don't look like a single wide or a double wide. They're manufactured homes. They come shipped in 2 or 3 pieces and they put them together, in place, and that they don't move. You can't move them. So those are a little bit trickier because you don't know where, off the top of your head, you're not going to know where it's registered. So how the way that might work is there might be a DMV registration depending on what it is. and it might be registered with in California, the Department of Housing and Community Development,
Right.
which is the agency that oversees that. And the Department of Housing and Community Development can include manufactured homes, commercial modulars. So sometimes you see those as,
Like
you
at a
know,
school?
yeah, at a school or a construction site
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
floating homes, which in the Bay Area we see in Sausalito. They have houseboat. They call them houseboats, but they're not boats in that general
They
sense of
just
the
that
term.
they don't go to sea.
No,
Yeah.
you would need a tugboat to move it.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
it's
They
not
don't
a
have it.
houseboat on Lake Shasta. It's,
Right. Right.
or Lake Berryessa.
Right.
It's flat. There's no
They
wheelhouse.
don't have a motor in them, do they?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, they're just floating.
Yeah, popular in Sausalito, popular up in Seattle. You see big communities like that. And then one of the things the Department of Housing and Community Development also says it covers is truck campers, which is kind of like the camper that sits in the bed of the truck, a bed of a pickup truck. So I assume for any type of recreational vehicle, it could go either way as well. So I
Depends
mean, you just have
on
to check. Yeah.
you have to see how it's registered. So it
Yeah.
could be registered DMV, could be registered Department of Housing.
And community development.
Yeah, so you just need to, and so if you're going to retitle that into your trust, you got to go to the appropriate authority and follow their
Yeah.
rules.
And the good news is the Department of Housing and Community Development has all the forms on their website. So you can easily retitle everything while you're alive. There's a process for after you pass away. There's a process for valuing something after you pass away, because that might not be something that a real estate appraiser might
Yeah.
do in order to see if you qualify, if it's going to be under, probate amount.
Right.
Because I mean, how do you value that, right? Especially if it's not on land that you own. If you're paying space rent somewhere, but you own the building in a trailer park or a mobile home community. So there's a few different ways that things are set up. It could be titled with Housing and Community Development, but you pay a yearly registration to them, similar to the DMV. It could be titled with the DMV and you pay a yearly registration, your
Like your
car.
car. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it could be titled with Housing and Community Development, but you pay property taxes to the county, which is a different agency. So there's different ways.
Even though you don't own the underlying land,
Right.
you're still paying what we call property taxes.
Right. You might pay your space rent to the park, which I like to say is like a HOA fee, a homeowners association fee. You're paying for that pool you have access to.
Sure.
Maybe it includes water, things like that.
Mhm.
And then, but you also have to pay for your, 300 by 200, foot pad. You have to pay the property taxes, which is like, some fractional amount.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So that's with the mobile
Mobile or
homes.
manufactured homes.
Manufactured home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the term mobile is what gets things tricky, because you're like, does it go DMV?
It should be DMV. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can move it. And that might used to
And
have
some
been
of them
the
are.
concept. Yeah.
Some of them are.
That may used to have been the dividing line, is it movable or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the line's just really blurred. And as time goes on, the increase in these tiny homes that might be on a trailer chassis that you can tow, or ADUs, the fact that they're selling these modular or manufactured homes.
Yeah, they're basically manufactured homes.
Yeah, as an ADU. And so how do you, if you're putting it on your own property, it's probably
just part of your property.
Taxes. Yeah. Your property's going to get reassessed.
It's going to reassess the property. Yeah.
But there's floating talk about making it so that you can sell these ADUs without partitioning your land. The state has approved the ability to do that, but they don't have a process, my understanding. So we don't know how that's going to work. But like that, you could like sell the ADU in your backyard. And it's like, how do you do that?
Then you become the mobile home community, and
Right.
and you've got to charge rent for this pad.
Right. So I presume there's going to be, a bunch of laws coming down the pipeline. It's mostly to address, housing crisis, but,
Sure.
it's going to affect everything else. It's going to affect how you title your assets eventually. So stay tuned for that. When that law changes, we'll let you know.
Okay. And the other thing that's kind of related to this, because we talked about the floating housing, boats. So a boat can be registered with the DMV, and often boats are registered with DMV. But if they're, I think, above a certain size, and don't ask me to say what the size is, then they have to be registered with the Coast Guard. And so you have to know which kind of boat do you have, and if you've got the pink slip for your boat, you can tell it's going to say. So we would like those to be re-registered if they're, especially Coast Guard boats.
Yes.
Because
it's registered through the federal
government,
and they don't care about the California laws.
Yeah.
So they're going to want a court order.
They don't care what the probate code says. So if you have a Coast Guard registered boat, you definitely want to retitle it in the name of your trust, and you can do that. It's definitely worth doing, because
it's just downloadable paperwork.
Yeah, if you don't, there's going to be some pushback, most likely, and it'll just be much more complicated.
Yeah, especially since probably if you have a Coast Guard boat, it's not in your driveway.
No,
it's in the water somewhere in a slip.
It's got a slip. Yeah.
So you definitely do that in order to be able to at least sell it. Let alone if it's not registered, you can't sail it or drive it or go out to sea. You don't want to get caught that way. So
right.
That's important too. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be back, I'm sure, for many more parts to this funding series, because there are a lot of assets out there that fall into their own little weird categories, or not weird, but not as easy as just walking into your bank and changing your account over.
Exactly.
So, or
it's
recording a deed.
It always bears repeating. If you have a trust, you got to get those assets in there. And so here we are trying to help you figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Because your trust is only as good as it's funded.
As what it actually owns.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, very good.
All right. Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you, Madison. We look forward to connecting with you all next time.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Absolute Trust Talk Live. If you enjoyed listening in, then don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen by searching Absolute Trust Talk. While you're there, we would also love for you to leave us a review. And then why not share your favorite episodes with family, friends, or colleagues too? You can find all of our shows and corresponding show notes by visiting absolutetrustcounsel.com. You'll also find a variety of other free resources, including our ebooks, videos, blogs, presentations, and more. If you need help with your estate planning or administration, we also offer a free discovery call to help get the process started. You can find more information on booking your session by visiting absolutetrustcounsel.com/scheduling. Don't forget to keep an eye out for our next live episode. If you join us for the broadcast, you can submit questions during the show. But if not, don't worry. You can always get in touch with us by sending a quick message to info@absolutetrustcounsel.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.